One of the most picturesque meeting places of the Pacific Ocean and the California coast is the Monterey Peninsula. And for the first time in 7 seasons, the Firehawk series stopped here to visit Laguna Seca Raceway. This is a popular stop for tourists from all over the country. We're just a 5-iron from Pebble Beach, and it's just a short trip to 17-mile drive. But Dorsey, we're not here to sightsee. We're here to go racing.
Bill, all 3 classes are racing here for a 3-hour race on this new 2.2-mile circuit. These guys have never been here before. When you come to a new track for the first time, you can encounter difficulty. We'll have highlights and more in the next half hour.
Parnelli Jones is world famous on the Indy circuit. P.J. Jones is a steadily rising star on the Firehawk circuit. I'll introduce you to the young driver who this year has 4 poles and 2 victories.
In racing, safety is the #1 factor. Don't try this at home. Some modification of these cars is necessary before we can race them. I'll have that story coming up.
And we'll have the highlights of the thrilling 3-hour race from Laguna Seca, including a 3-car dash for the checkered flag in the sports division. We'll have the highlights and more coming up on Firehawk. Today's show is brought to you by Firestone, the official sponsor of the U.S. Olympic team, and by Oldsmobile, the power of intelligent engineering. Contender in the sports division is this Toyota MR2, co-driven by P.J. Jones and Chris Cord. They already have 2 wins this season, and for P.J., his return to the Firehawk Series in 1991 has been nothing short of sensational. Dan has his story.
P.J. Jones spent a lot of his younger years excelling in just about every sport there was, especially hockey and baseball. Another sport that interested him was race cars. And when you have a racing legend for a father, such as Parnelli Jones, racing tends to be bred into your system. And at a very young age, PJ and his brother Paige were wheeling and dealing.
The whole racing thing started, we started racing motorcycles a little bit, and we got to age about 13 years old, and we've been wanting racing go-karts, and my dad, kept hesitating, and so we were playing pool down at our house at the river in Parker, Arizona, and there was 3 impossible shots on the pool table, and my little brother says, "Hey, Dad," he says, "if I make these 3 shots, will you take me to Caesar Palace Grand Prix?" And so my dad looked at the shots, and sure. So my brother, luck, I guess, that day, and shot in all 3 balls, and so a couple weeks went by, and the Caesar Palace Grand Prix was coming up, and he says, "Hey," he says, "it's going to be kind of a hassle for me to take you there." He says, what happens if I buy you the go-kart you guys have been wanting?" So we said, sure, and I mean, ever since then, it's been an uphill battle. I think that was the worst thing he ever did because it cost him a lot of money.
So now, several race circuits later, PJ is splitting his time driving in the Firehawk Series and driving in the Indy Lights division. And in the Firehawk Series, he gets a lot of track time in the flashy Toyota MR2s. But he also has to split his time with veterans Chris Cord, Dennis Ossie, and hydroplane champion Chip Hanauer.
I mean, Chris Cord and Dennis Ossie, I mean, they're champions. So, I mean, it's not hard to get out of the car and give it to them because you always know it's going to return or it's always going to be up there where you left it. So it's hard to get out of the car, but with them knowing that they're getting in it, it makes it a little easier. I think, you learn from them. I mean, they're experienced racers. They've been doing this a long time. I'm just a kid. I'm just kind of the newcomer, up and coming kind of, hopefully up and coming kind of guy. So, you gotta look at your elders, and I think you got to try to learn from them, and you also learn from the series.
PJ certainly is up and coming. This year alone in Firehawk, his first full season, he has 4 starts, 2 wins, 4 poles, and 4 top 10 finishes. Having the famous father, though, has sometimes been tough on the young driver, and only time has helped him deal with the advantages.
Well, I think in the most part it's a help. I can see where there's a lot of doors open for him and a lot of opportunities. However, PJ has been through some tremendous problems with You know, the fact that a lot of the officials and things in some of the lesser races that he's ran were, you know, just because you're Cornelius Jones' son, I'm going to show you how the cow ate the cabbage, so to speak. And he's had a lot of problems like that. And it's like, and guys wanting to rough him up and show him that they're a little bit better than he is and that sort of thing. Page has not had that much problem. I think PJ has broken the ice for him, so to speak, and Page has not had those kinds of problems, but PJ's had some.
I don't really feel any more pressure to follow his success. I mean, you know, people are thinking, well, maybe he's not as good as his father. Well, I mean, that was a generation ago, so it's hard to compare. I mean, you're comparing apples to oranges. I'm just going to go out there and try to do the best I can, and you know, see how good that is, and hopefully I'll be one of the best racers there was, and maybe I could be later, after my career ends, I could be compared to him. I mean, if I'm half as good as he was, I'll be great. I mean, you know, he was a legend, and him and A.J. Foyt, and I don't think anybody can compare to that era.
Whatever the future holds for PJ, it's bound to be great. All the ingredients are there: talent, desire, attitude, and guidance from one of the best. So the logical question is, what's the best thing that can happen to P.J. Jones?
Oh, well, I think, you know, you could win the Indy 500. I mean, if you win the Indy 500, I mean, you've made it. I mean, that's it. And also, I mean, it would be nice to be IndyCar champion and PPG champion and win races. I mean, I want to win races. I mean, that's kind of more important to me than winning championships. I mean, if you were known for winning a lot of races, I mean, that's in all different types of race cars. I mean, whether it's, that's one thing that I've tried to do, is be diversified, where I could run a midget on a half-mile track, I could run a sports car, I could run a stock car, I could run an Indy car. So I've kind of looked towards that in my career, and I think all those experiences will help you become a great race driver someday.
PJ is driving so many different race cars these days that, in fact, he has a conflict on this race. His #1 priority is the Firestone Indy lights. However, Bill, he's got a really good substitute.
Yeah, they found a pretty good replacement driver for him. His dad, Parnelli Jones, will be driving with the Toyota team this weekend, and Parnelli has some Firehawk experience, including one career Firehawk win. We'll see how Parnelli Jones and the Toyota team and the rest of the field does in a 3-hour race at Laguna Seca coming up next.
Well, it's been 6 years since I've been to Laguna Seca racetrack, and they've changed the track drastically, adding some 3 turns. They've slowed down the average speed. The corner you see behind us, though, flat out, 4th and 5th gear action. The cars in the corner are sometimes faster than some straightaways.
And this is the first visit for the Firehawk teams here to Laguna Seca, and several teams made this 2-race trip to the west. Dan Kenyon is with one driver down on the track.
Well, Bill, they're starting more than 50 cars today, which is a lot of cars, but by Firehawk standards, it's not really. I'm here with Randy Popes. Randy, you qualified your BMW 6, which was fastest of the non-Porsches. Is this a track that another manufacturer you think will finally get that first victory?
Well, we hope so. Our little BMW M3 is the ultimate driving machine, of course, and I'm really happy that TC Klein Racing gave me the opportunity to drive this car with a guy like Ray Corman. And its handling is what our secret is. This car has a little motor, the smallest one in the class. It's a great M-Series engine, but we're depending on our handling to carry us through. And Laguna Seca track is a handling track. So that, if we win, that's what it'll be that did it for us.
Joe Vardy won the pole for the Sandwich Salads Racing team, Vardy's 4th straight of the season and a record 19th career Firehawk pole. John Morton in a Toyota won the sports pole, and John Green took the pole in touring. The front 5 Porsches led the charge into turn 1. Mark Sandrich started in the 50 Porsche, but yielded the lead on the opening lap to Bill Cooper in the 84. Chuck Hemmingson at the wheel of the Castrol 00 Oldsmobile grabbed the lead in the sports division, and in touring, Lance Stewart in the 87 Copper Kettle Honda was the leader. The 66 Toyota started at the back of the field because of a crash in qualifying, but driver Chris Cord picked up 17 positions on the opening lap. The 47 Conquest was an early retiree, giving a new meaning to the term Firehawk. The flames were extinguished and no one was injured. During the first hour, the 84 Porsche with Cooper at the wheel continued to lead, with the 51 and 50 Porsches running 2nd and 3rd. In the sports division, the 00 continued to lead, with the 67 Toyota 2nd and the 00 Olds running 3rd. In touring, the 2 Copper Kettle cars were running 1-2, trailed by the 44 Saturn. During the second of 5 cautions, pole winner Joe Vardy replaced Mark Sandrich behind the wheel of the 50 car. Willie Lewis was ready to take over for Sam Shanaman in the 38 Taurus, hoping to cash in on that car's fuel mileage factor.
Well, that's exactly right. If we can get a load of fuel right now, we can go the distance. And the way the race is going to turn out, we're expecting a couple of yellows, so that's going to stretch our fuel. So we're going to get in it and go for it right to the end, never come back in.
The 51 Porsche of Lon Bender and Bruce Jenner took the lead on lap 34. But the 84 Phoenix Commodities Porsche of Cooper and Kim Campbell, which led the first 33 laps, recaptured the lead on lap 38. Among the front runners in sports, the 2 Castrol Oldsmobiles, the 24 Eagle, the 34 Taurus, and the 38 Taurus. In touring, the Copper Kettle Hondas were holding off the 44 Saturn. The day ended early for Greg Dix in the number 21 Bahamas Princess Casino Honda when he hit the wall hard in turn 10.
You think something broke and it just went straight?
Oh, yeah, it just went straight into the wall. I mean, it's a horrible feeling. You know what it's like, Dorsey. You know, you're helpless. I mean, you couldn't turn, nothing. The car just went straight into the wall, bang. Moved the wall about 2 feet, so...
With just over 90 minutes remaining in the race, the track went green, and Vardy went to the front, a familiar position for this Firehawk veteran. Vardy was chased by the 84 Porsche, the 51 team car, along with the 06 and the 07 Porsches. Deep in the field, but running on the lead lap, were the 98 and 99 Bill Gray Racing Camaros. The Camaros have been consistent, but so far in 1991, they have not been competitive. No Camaro has threatened the new Porsches, so at Laguna, IMSA made a move to try and balance out the overwhelming edge of the Porsches.
Behind me is the Kelly Moss Racing Team. Now, they've dominated competition this far in the series. Not only Kelly Moss, but all the Porsche teams in particular have led all of the races. Now, IMSA has just installed 352 of these little balls in the gas tank of every Porsche competing. This displaces 4 gallons of fuel. That'll make the fuel stop between the Chevrolet Camaros and the Porsches come at about the same time. It's their way of making the series equal.
But the smaller fuel cell had virtually no effect on the Porsches in this 3-hour format. With a lighter car and bigger brakes, the Porsches pulled away from the Camaros, and Vardy pulled away from the rest of the Porsches, seeking his 12th career victory. The BMW of Randy Pobst and Ray Corman qualified well, but slowly slipped back in the field and finished 2 laps down. In sports, the 66 Toyota of Ford and Parnelli Jones, which started dead last, held the lead over the 79 Eagle of Garth Ullum and Terry Earwood. But Ullum ran into some trouble on the track when he collided with a teammate.
Garth was trying to pass Larry Parmalee in our 15 car, and he saw him coming left, and Larry heard left and turned left, and Garth got into the back of him, bent the hood up. We were doing okay until we had to check the brake fluid on that pit stop, and now the hood won't go back down, so we've taped it up. We don't think it's going to hold. The car's in second place. We hate to bring him back in, but we think we'll have to knock a hole in the hood, put a bungee cord on it, a little jury rig, and get back out there. We hate to lose that second place spot right now.
In touring, the twin Saturn cars were running first and third, with the 87 Copper Kettle Honda of Lance Stewart and John Green second. In Grand Sports, the battle was for second, as Vardy bolted from the field, building up a whopping 12-second lead, leaving Jenner, Campbell, Tom Lepper, and Nick Ham to fight it out for the runner-up spot. In touring, the stubborn Saturn would not give in to the determined Copper Kettle Honda. But in the final half hour, the Kent Farrell car made a rare mistake, overcooking the car heading into turn 3 and allowing the 87 Honda to zip by and into the lead for keeps. The fans were trying to capture all the action, and they witnessed a wild finish in the sports division. The 66 Toyota quit with transmission trouble, and Scott Gaylord and the 24 Eagle zoomed to the front in the final half hour, with the Hackers right behind. The big concern for Paul Rossi and company was fuel. The 24 car pitted at the very edge of its window and needed to go a full 90 minutes to reach the finish. The Oldsmobiles tried to catch the Eagle. First, the 0 car looked like it had an edge in turn 1, but Paul Hacker ran out of road, had to jump on the brakes, and slid across the track, luckily avoiding contact, but losing valuable seconds. However, it wasn't long before the 2 Castrol cars were able to hunt down the Eagle. dangerously low on fuel. Coming down the hill and heading for the front stretch, Gaylord picked up a blocker in teammate Garth Ullum, a lap down to the leaders. Then the two teams squared off. First, the 00 didn't bother with the brakes and rammed the rear of the 24. Paul Hacker had the lead beginning the final lap. Then it was Gaylord. Then once again, Hacker moving in front. The four cars were the focus of the fans on the final lap. Heading up the hill, Ullum trimmed the field to 2, nudging the 00 out of contention. Hacker led Gaylord in the 24, and the chase was on for the checkered flag. But Hacker was able to hold off the Eagle and take the win. Gaylord and Ray Kong finishing second. Another tough loss in the long season for Paul Rossi. In Grand Sports, Barty coasted home to the win, his margin of victory nearly 7 seconds. And in touring, the 87 Copper Kettle Honda carried Lance Stewart and John Green to their first win of the season.
Boy, our car was so hooked up the entire weekend. The Copper Kettle team did a terrific job with the chassis. It was absolutely perfect in qualifying. It held up in the race. And it got a little physical here and there, but the race went pretty good for us.
I want to say thanks to my brother Carl for giving it to me in the shape it was in. I mean, I could sprint it at the end thanks to this guy.
I didn't think it was in that great a shape, and I thought he really kind of gambled a bit in choosing to drive with me. I know he wants to get my points up there with his, but I had phoned in and told him they got some problems here, and he went out and lived with them, and as it turned out, it was the right choice.
When Mark gave me the car, I went back out, we were just about in the lead, so there were, he kept it up there for me, and the crew did a heck of a job. The Porsche S2 just ran remarkably, and there's so many people to thank. I just can't thank everybody right now.
Now, next week, the Firehawk Series swings to the north to Portland, Oregon. It'll be another 3-hour race for all 3 divisions in the Firestone Firehawk Endurance Championship. Dorsey, give us a little preview of the Portland facility.
Oh, Portland's another beautiful racetrack, but in fact, a very fast one. It has the longest straightaway of any racetrack that these cars will ever see. It might finally give the V8 its heyday they've been looking for.
Next week, Firestone in Portland. And coming up next, Dorsey gives us a look at the safety modifications on these street-legal Firehawk cars. It's not just for men anymore. Women are playing a more valuable and visible role in racing. We'll have that story.
And all 3 divisions of the Firehawk circuit moved to Portland for a 3-hour race. Can Porsche continue to dominate? We'll have the highlights next week.
The cars that compete on the Firehawk circuit are street legal. For obvious reasons, some safety modifications are permitted. Nick Ham of the Kelly Moss team had this bout with the wall in a test session at Laguna Seca. The safety features are designed to protect Nick and his fellow competitors on the Firehawk circuit. Dorsey has a report.
I've been driving race cars now for 20 years. I'm going to show you the differences between the street car and the race car that keeps this a safe sport. One of the safety features required in all street cars nowadays is a seat belt. Required by law in most states to be worn, this is a lot different than you'll find in the race car. A much more elaborate set of safety belts is used in the race car than it is in the street car. First of all, the lap belt, some 3 inches wide, fits into a quick disconnect coupler right here. Between your legs is a submarine belt, or an anti-submarine belt, I should say, that keeps you from sliding out from under in a heavy impact. It comes up through the middle and clips in right here. 2 shoulder harnesses complete it as they slip in like so. By the time you tighten this all down, you're stuck in here pretty good. I can attest that this will keep you in the seat at over 200 miles an hour upside down. But if you need to get out quick, one buckle, I'm out of here. A passenger car seat is built for comfort over the long haul, but a race car driver's seat has got to be modified to the body. It holds you in place. You can see the sides built up to hold me laterally. Over here, a window net. They take the driver's door glass out of a race car because if it should get upside down in a big accident, that flying glass can cut the driver. The net keeps me from getting outside the car in a rollover. My arms and my head could possibly go out that window if it weren't for this safety net. Also, big door padding bars. They run pretty tight in the Firehawk, and you'll see a little rubbing happen every once in a while. This keeps the driver safe on his side by his legs. Here is a fire extinguisher system. If I were to pull this up, it would set off a fire bottle that would extinguish any flame from front to rear on this car. The car is surrounded by a roll cage structure. If it should get upside down, the roof would not collapse and come down on me. All in all, the safety features in the Firestone Firehawk car make it a very safe vehicle to drive. The racetrack is infinitely more safe than the streets that you drive on every day. Safety shouldn't be taken lightly. Wear that belt, please.
Well, Dorsey, you have some first-hand knowledge of how those safety modifications can really protect a driver.
Indeed I do. As Dave Rosenblum, who owns IC Racing, and I got together some years back in a vicious accident in Phoenix. Both cars, total write-offs, both drivers totally uninjured.
Well, safety is always the #1 concern in any form of racing. Next weekend, this series races at Portland, Oregon. We'll have the highlights for you. And don't forget to make Inside Winston Cup Racing a part of your Sports Sunday each week here on TNN.
And we'll see you next week on Firestone Firehawk.
Today's show has been brought to you by Firestone, the official sponsor of the U.S. Olympic team, and by NAPCO, the Performance Paper Company, specializing in service, quality products, and tailored distribution. Communications for Firehawk provided by Racing Radios, Forest Park, Georgia. Racing Radios, the official communications of IMSA.